The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly before the fleet of the Galactic Empire, an unstoppable juggernaut of warships and dreadnoughts, each a monument to the power of the Empire. At its center, the Dread Reaper, the largest and most advanced ship ever built, commanded the attention of every ship in the fleet. General Karath stood on the bridge, his reptilian eyes scanning the displays, his sharp features creased with disdain. "You've read the reports, General," said a voice from behind, breaking Karath's concentration. "The human colonies, weak. Primitive. They pose no threat." Karath turned to face his advisor, Admiral Zarek, a stoic figure who, like Karath, was a being of alien power, tall, composed, and impervious to the cold of space. His report had been straightforward: humanity's colonies were small, scattered, and poorly defended. Their ships were little more than glorified rust buckets compared to the might of the Empire. "I know the reports," Karath growled, the bitterness in his voice unmistakable. "But they continue to resist. What kind of civilization hides from its conquerors? Out of fear, General. They know their time has come. This is the final purge of humanity." Karath turned his gaze back to the viewport, his eyes narrowing as he looked at the trajectory lines on the holomap. He could almost hear the silent screams of the humans as his fleet approached their home systems. He'd wiped out entire species before. This would be no different. Across the galaxy, in stark contrast to the cold, ordered precision of the Empire's might, Captain Mia Rook paced the bridge of her flagship, the Nova Spirit. Her ship was smaller than most, its sleek lines and sharp angles designed for speed rather than raw power. It was a ship built for outwitting, not overpowering. And outwitting was exactly what Mia planned to do. "Captain," a voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Admiral Tessa Reed, her trusted second-in-command, always calculating, always calm. "We've detected the Empire's fleet. They're nearly in position for the attack." Mia nodded, a smile flickering across her lips. "I know. I've been waiting for them." "You've waited for them?" Reed raised an eyebrow, a small but noticeable sign of her surprise. "They have the might of the galaxy behind them. And you want to, what? Make them wait?" Mia's grin widened. "You'll see. We've been playing their game for too long. Now, we're going to make them play ours." Reed gave a knowing smile. "So it's the Ghost Protocol, then?" "Exactly. Let's see how well they handle something they can't predict." The Dread Reaper came out of warp, its massive form hanging in space like a shadow over the human colonies. Karath stood at the front, his hands clasped behind his back, his voice cold and calculated. "Deploy the fleet. We begin the eradication of the humans now. They've had their time." The Empire's ships fanned out in perfect formation, ready to strike the colony worlds. The first target was a mining colony in the Outer Rim. A small world, but one vital to humanity's survival. And the Empire was about to tear it apart. Karatha's plan was simple. Destroy the colonies, neutralize any remaining human resistance, and then move on to the next system. It was a strategy that had worked countless times. There was no reason to believe it wouldn't work now. "General, no human ships in sight," said one of his officers. "We've received no transmission. No resistance." "Of course not," Karath said with a sneer. "They're hiding. We'll find them soon enough. Continue with the bombardment." But as the fleet began its descent toward the planet, something unexpected happened. Out of nowhere, a human ship, a lone vessel, appeared from hyperspace. It was a sleek, agile ship that zipped past the Empire's warships, disappearing into the dense asteroid field surrounding the colony. "Why did it flee?" Zarek asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "Are they retreating already?" Karatha's eyes narrowed, irritation creeping into his voice. "Don't be a fool. They're luring us into a trap." Back on the Nova Spirit, Mia Rook leaned back in her command chair, her fingers dancing over the controls with practiced ease. Her fleet of smaller human ships had already scattered, disappearing into the asteroid field. Karatha's arrogance had blinded him to the trap she had set for him. the Empire had thought they were hunting down a disorganized, weak species. But humanity's greatest strength was its unpredictability. And Mia was about to show the Empire just how devastating that could be. "Admiral, prepare the decoys. We need them to think we're running," Mia ordered. Reed nodded and turned to the crew, issuing the necessary commands. The Nova Spirit was already skimming through the asteroid field, a blur of speed. She and her crew had the home field advantage, and Mia was going to make sure they used it to the fullest. "We're not running, Admiral," Mia added with a wicked grin. "We're just getting started." On the Dread Reaper, the fleet commander was becoming increasingly agitated. "We have the entire human fleet on the run," he shouted. "This should be an easy victory." "Where are they? Why can't we find them?" "They're hiding somewhere in the field, General," said another officer, "but we have the scanners. We'll track them down." "Then why haven't we found them already?" Koroth snapped. "Something is wrong here. I know these humans. They're not just going to hide and run. They're trying to set us up." His voice grew more forceful, as if the anger would somehow drive the fleet's success. "Let's draw them out. Prepare to deploy the drones. We'll flush them out." Mia had been expecting this. She knew the Empire's next move as soon as they'd started deploying their drones. They were trying to catch her ships in a blind spot, but Mia had already anticipated the move. She tapped a few more commands into the ship's console, and Reed looked over, noting the intensity in Mia's eyes. "You know they're not just going to give up," Reed said, eyeing the incoming fleet. "We can't run forever." Mia smiled, the corners of her mouth turning up in a mix of determination and amusement. "We're not running, Admiral. We're leading them straight to their doom." The drones deployed, sensors scanning the asteroid field for any sign of human activity. Koroth watched, his anticipation growing with each passing second. This time, they would trap the humans, flush them out of their hiding spots, and destroy them. His victory was imminent. But as the drones moved deeper into the field, they encountered an anomaly. One of the drones reported strange energy signatures, a sudden spike in gravitational activity, followed by a flash of bright light. Then, one by one, the drones began to disappear. The energy readings went haywire as a massive explosion sent shockwaves through space. "What the hell is happening?" Karatha's voice trembled with disbelief as his officers scrambled to process the situation. The drones were gone. In their place were ghost-like signatures of human ships that had activated hidden cloaking devices, each ship surrounding the Empire's forces in the dense asteroid field, all perfectly positioned to attack. Mia's voice came over the comms, filled with dark amusement. "General Koroth, I think you've walked right into our trap." Karatha's rage boiled over. "No! This cannot be." "How did they? That's the thing," Mia interrupted, her tone mocking. "You can't predict humans. You think we're weak. But we just laugh in your face." The battle began in earnest as human ships, fast and nimble, launched a full-scale assault on the Empire's now disoriented forces. They moved like shadows in the asteroid field, slipping in and out of the chaos, striking quickly and retreating before the Empire could retaliate. The humans fought with ferocity, using every trick they had at their disposal. Each attack, every unexpected move, chipped away at the Empire's resolve. Koroth screamed, fury in his voice. "Hold your ground. Bring in the reinforcements. These humans won't outlast us." But with each passing moment, it became clearer, the humans weren't just surviving, they were winning. Koroth stood rigid in the command chair of the Dread Reaper, his mind racing as the reality of the situation started to hit. The drones, all of them, gone. How could it be? His ships were on high alert, every sensor array active, and still, the humans had somehow outwitted him. His grip tightened around the armrest, the only sign of his growing fury. "General," said Admiral Zarek, his calm voice a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding. "The humans, they've adapted. We're losing our drones at an alarming rate." "I see that," Koroth growled, teeth gritted. "Deploy every available ship. We will find them, and we will crush them." the Empire's forces, the largest and most powerful fleet ever assembled, began to fan out across the asteroid field. Ships moved in perfect formations, scanning, searching for any signs of human activity. But the humans, as elusive as ever, seemed to vanish into the very void, only to strike when the Empire least expected it. "All of their ships are cloaked," Zarek reported, his eyes glued to his station. "We've lost communication with several squads. They've infiltrated our ranks." The silence on the bridge was deafening for a moment. Karath stared at the monitors, his mind calculating. "They won't outrun us forever. We'll flush them out. Increase the intensity of the scans. No more hiding." Meanwhile, on the Nova Spirit, Captain Mia Rook was enjoying the chaos she had orchestrated. From the bridge, she surveyed the Empire's fleet, now stumbling through the asteroid field like blind beasts, grasping at shadows. She wasn't in a hurry. This was just the beginning. "Admiral, how long before they realize they're outmatched?" Mia asked, her eyes scanning the battlefield. "They think they can break us. Let's give them a taste of their own medicine." Admiral Reed nodded, her fingers moving over the controls with the precision of a master. "They won't be able to keep this up for long. They've underestimated us, and they're paying the price." The Nova Spirit was smaller than the massive Empire warships, but it was faster, nimbler, and far more cunning. Mia had known from the beginning that they couldn't go toe-to-toe in a straight-up fight. Instead, they would make the Empire come to them, only to find that each step they took would be their last. The asteroid field, dense and perilous, was now their battlefield, a maze of rock and debris, a perfect hiding place. Mia grinned. Her ships had hidden among the asteroids, using every advantage they had: speed, stealth, and deception. "We've set up a few surprises for them," Mia said, her voice laced with amusement. "Let's see how the great Karath handles a few surprises." "Captain," one of the officers called from across the room. "We've located their flagship. It's heading directly toward us. They're confident, but they don't know what's coming." "Let's make sure they regret it," Mia said, leaning forward. "All ships, execute Phase 1 of the plan. We're going to hit them where it hurts." On the Dreadreaper, Karatha's impatience reached its peak. His fleet was stretched thin, ships scattered across the asteroid field, unable to find the humans who were somehow always one step ahead. His pride burned as his forces floundered. "Deploy every assault ship we have," he bellowed, his voice shaking with fury. "Flush them out. They cannot escape us. I won't be made a fool of by these vermin." He stood from his chair, glaring at the screens. "We'll find them. And when we do, I'll make sure they regret ever thinking they could challenge the Empire." Mia's ships, camouflaged among the asteroids, moved like shadows in the void. They weren't there to destroy the Empire, not yet. They were there to draw them in, to keep them disoriented, to weaken their resolve. And the humans had succeeded. The first strike came unexpectedly, a barrage of ion blasts fired from hidden positions, hitting a nearby fleet cruiser dead-on. The ship shook violently as its shields flared, but the attack was too much. The cruiser's systems went dark, and it spiraled out of control, crashing into an asteroid. "Direct hit," one of Mia's officers reported. "The cruiser's out of commission. Let's move to the next target." "Keep the pressure on them," Mia ordered. "We're not stopping until every last one of them regrets underestimating us." From the corner of the bridge, Reed watched the unfolding battle with sharp eyes. "They're blind, Captain. They don't see us coming." "Good," Mia replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Let's keep them in the dark a little longer." Back on the Dreadreaper, the situation was growing increasingly dire. The sudden loss of the cruiser was just the beginning. Karatha's officers scrambled to get their bearings, but it was no use. Every time they thought they had a fix on the human positions, the humans would vanish, only to strike again from another direction. "We have to concentrate our forces," Karath growled. "Stop chasing ghosts. Move in tighter formations. We'll surround them." The tension on the bridge was palpable. Zarek looked at Karath, his eyes filled with unease. General, we're losing control. The humans are everywhere. It's like they know our every move before we make it. That's because they do, Koroth snapped. They're not fighting conventionally. They've turned this battlefield into their home turf. This asteroid field is their ally. Koroth slammed his fist down on the control panel. We need reinforcements. Now. Mia saw it all from the Nova spirit. The Empire was falling into her trap, tightening their formation just as she predicted. It was the perfect moment. She sent a series of commands to the fleet, and the human ships engaged. A series of electromagnetic pulses cascaded through the asteroid field, disabling the Empire's communications and targeting systems. For a brief moment, the Empire's massive fleet was left blind and deaf, unable to coordinate their movements. The human ships moved in, swift as predators, striking hard and fast, picking off isolated vessels. Another cruiser exploded in a shower of sparks, its debris scattering across the field. The humans weren't just winning, they were dominating the battlefield. Karotha's fury reached new heights as he watched the destruction unfold before him. This is impossible, he hissed. How are they doing this? How are they beating us? They're not beating us, Zarek said coldly. They're playing us. We underestimated them. We're the ones losing, not them. On the Nova spirit, Mia stood, watching as the Empire's forces crumbled before her. She could see the Empire's flagship, the Dread Reaper, through the viewport, its massive silhouette now less imposing, its movements erratic. The humans had done it. They'd turned the tide of battle. Now we finish this, Mia said quietly, her voice laced with satisfaction. All ships, converge on the flagship. Karotha's arrogance ends today. As the human fleet closed in on the Dread Reaper, Mia sent one final message to Koroth. You can't win, General. Your entire fleet is crumbling. You're blind, desperate, and out of time. It's over. There was a long pause before Karotha's voice came through, cold and strained. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. You've made a mistake if you think I'll let you live. Mia smiled. We're not done yet. But you are. The battle raged on, but Karotha's forces had been dealt a lethal blow. With the Empire's fleet in disarray, the human ships began to regroup, closing in on their targets with deadly precision. Each move was a reminder of the one thing the Empire had failed to understand: humanity would not be conquered. Not by them, not by anyone. The final blow came with the collapse of the Dread Reaper's shields. Human ships swarmed in, attacking from all sides. Koroth, at the helm of his broken flagship, realized the truth too late. His fleet was no more. His empire's dominance had been shattered, all because humanity had refused to bow down. The last thing Koroth saw before his ship was destroyed was the human fleet, victorious and unyielding, standing tall in the darkness of space. Mia stood tall on the bridge, the echoes of victory ringing in her ears. They thought they could crush us, she muttered, her eyes never leaving the vast expanse of space. But they forgot one thing. Humans don't give up, and with that, the Empire learned a harsh lesson: humanity could not be conquered. Not now, not ever. Koroth stood at the helm of the Dread Reaper, glaring at the chaos unfolding before him. His fleet was broken into disjointed groups, each ship floundering in the asteroid field. The humans, those insignificant vermin, had turned the tide in ways he couldn't comprehend. His drones were destroyed, his formations shattered, and now the human ships were closing in for the final strike. General, we've lost contact with multiple fleets. The human ships are everywhere, an officer reported, his voice strained. Karotha's eyes narrowed, the fire of rage fueling his every word. Then tighten our formations. We will not be scattered. We will crush them, every last one of them. He slammed his fist down on the console. Bring every ship together. They won't escape. Not this time. As the fleet began to shift, the massive Dread Reaper moved in tighter formation, the Empire's remaining ships clustering together in an attempt to salvage what remained of their strategy. The humans had played their game well, But Karath was not one to give in easily. He would break them. Deploy all heavy artillery, Karath barked. Let's see how they handle a direct assault. On the Nova Spirit, Miaruk watched the Empire's regrouping attempt. The arrogance in Karath's movements, even now, was laughable. He still thought that brute force would win the day. The Empire had yet to learn what humanity truly excelled at, unpredictability. We have them right where we want them, Mia said, her voice cold with determination. They're running out of options. All ships, prepare for Phase 2. Admiral Reed turned to Mia, a slight frown crossing her face. They're consolidating their power. A direct assault could be dangerous. Mia's eyes flashed with confidence. We're not fighting them head-on. We're just going to make them think they are. The Nova Spirit and the rest of the human fleet drifted silently through the asteroid field, blending into the debris, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Empire had no idea what was coming next. On the Dread Reaper, Karatha's focus was on the human ships still lingering at the edge of the asteroid field. His fleet was moving faster now, the giant warships accelerating toward the heart of the battlefield. The humans were running out of places to hide. They can't keep this up forever, Karath muttered to himself. They'll have to show their faces. And when they do, we will make them regret it. General, we've detected some unusual readings near the outer perimeter, an officer called out, his voice laced with suspicion. It looks like traps. Karath narrowed his eyes. Traps? Ridiculous. The humans aren't capable of setting traps on this scale. Focus on the main fleet. But as the words left his mouth, the first explosion rocked the ship. A powerful electromagnetic pulse surged through the Empire's formations, disabling the targeting systems and communication channels of several ships. The blast came from nowhere, catching Karatha's fleet completely off guard. We're under attack, the officer shouted. We've lost all targeting systems. Mia's voice crackled over the intercom, smooth and mocking. I told you, General. You should have expected us. This isn't a fight you can win. The Dread Reaper was now in complete disarray. Without its advanced targeting systems, the ships of the Empire were vulnerable. Mia had used the moment of their regrouping to strike, hitting them with a series of well-placed pulses and targeted hacking efforts that crippled the Empire's ability to fight back. Captain, Reed said, watching as the Empire's ships struggled to regain control, the Dread Reaper is wide open. It's vulnerable. Now's the time. Move in, Mia ordered. Take them down one by one. The Empire thought they could wipe us out. Let's show them who the real hunters are. With deadly precision, the Nova Spirit and the rest of the human fleet descended upon the Dread Reaper, their ships moving faster now, striking hard and fast. Human ships, agile and unpredictable, darted through the debris field, hammering the Empire's ships from every possible angle. The battle intensified as human and Empire ships collided. The Empire's warships fired back, but their shots were wild, disoriented, and ineffective. The humans weren't there to fight fair, they were there to dismantle every piece of the Empire's arrogance. Mia's voice came through again, clear and commanding. Focus on the weak points. We don't need to destroy their ships, just make sure they can't fight back. Admiral Reed followed her orders without hesitation. Target their propulsion systems. Disable them. The Dread Reaper was beginning to show signs of distress. Karath, on the bridge, could hear the sounds of alarms blaring as his ships were struck one after another. He had never been in a battle like this. He had never fought an enemy so determined, so relentless. Why can't we stop them? Karath hissed, slamming his fist against the control panel. How are they so fast? We've thrown everything at them. They're using our own tactics against us, Zarek said, his voice grim. We underestimated them. They've turned our strength into a weakness. Karatha's mind raced, but it was too late. The human fleet had already circled the Dread Reaper, and their attacks were relentless. Every shot they fired hit with precision. Every move they made was calculated, designed to keep the Empire disoriented and unable to regroup. We can still win this, Korath said, though there was less confidence in his voice. Get the fleet into formation. We'll push them back. But the humans weren't backing down. They didn't need to. The Empire was falling apart before their eyes. Korath's grip on his command chair tightened. He would not lose. Not to these humans. Mia watched as the Dread Reaper struggled to stay afloat. Korath's forces were frantically trying to regroup, but the damage was done. They were scattered, disorganized, and out of options. The humans had won the first phase of the battle. We have them, Mia said, her voice filled with the calm certainty of victory. Now let's finish it. Reed glanced at Mia, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. They didn't know what hit them. Let's make sure they never forget who they were fighting, Mia replied. Prepare the final strike. We end this now. The human fleet tightened its grip around the Dread Reaper. Every ship was in position, every shot planned. The Empire had thought they could conquer humanity. But now, it was clear, the only thing the Empire would conquer was its own pride. The Dread Reaper, once the pride of the Empire, now burned with fire and chaos. Its hull was riddled with holes, its engines struggling to maintain power. Korath's ships, battered and broken, were scattered across the field, unable to coordinate. The humans had won. Korath stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the destruction. I won't let it end like this, he muttered, his voice barely audible over the sounds of the ship's failing systems. You can't win, General, Mia's voice came again, calm and final. Your fleet is done. Your empire is finished. A final, devastating strike from the human fleet tore through the Dread Reaper, and the ship shuddered violently as its core imploded. Korath's last words were drowned out by the explosion. The human fleet, victorious, drifted in the aftermath of the battle. Mia Rook stood at the helm of the Nova Spirit, looking out at the remnants of the Dread Reaper and the scattered remains of the Empire's forces. The tide had turned. The battle was over, and humanity had emerged victorious. We did it, Reed said, her voice tinged with awe. Mia didn't respond immediately. She was focused, her gaze steady on the horizon of space. This is just the beginning, she said finally. The Empire might have been the biggest threat, but there are others. We'll be ready for them. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Humanity had proven, once and for all, that it could stand toe-to-toe with the greatest forces in the galaxy. We're not done yet, Mia added, her voice resolute. And neither are they. Korath's fury had reached its peak. His ship, the mighty Dread Reaper, lay in ruins, its hull riddled with fire, the bright sparks of destruction streaking through the dark expanse of space. The pride of the Empire had been torn apart, its once imposing presence now nothing more than a heap of burning wreckage. His fleet was scattered, broken, and disbanded, and the humans, those primitive pests, had proven far more capable than he ever imagined. He stood at the wrecked control panel, his mind whirling with disbelief and rage. His once flawless strategy had been shattered by the very beings he considered inferior. His arms trembled with fury as he gripped the armrest of his chair. How did this happen? His voice was a mix of disbelief and anguish. Zarek, his trusted advisor, stood beside him, his own composure long gone. They played us, General. Every move we made, they anticipated it. Their tactics, their deception, their sheer will, it was too much. We underestimated them. You're telling me I've been outwitted by them? Korath spat. His entire body tensed, the sheer humiliation choking him. You underestimated them, Zarek corrected gently, though even his voice lacked the usual confidence. They fought as if they were one step ahead from the start. And now we're paying the price for that. Korath's eyes darkened. The humans were supposed to be insignificant. To be crushed without a fight. He turned away, gripping his fist tightly. But they've proven something I never expected, they're not just a nuisance. They're a threat. And now, they'll pay for it. We're not in a position to strike back, General, Zarek said carefully. Their forces are closing in, and we. Karatha's gaze snapped to Zarek's. What do you mean, closing in? They're just humans. What can they possibly? The words caught in his throat as the comms officer interrupted. General, we've received a transmission from the human fleet. They've requested a ceasefire and terms for surrender. Karatha's lips curled into a sneer. Surrender? His voice was thick with venom. These pests actually think they can dictate terms to the Empire. Zarek's tone was almost calm, bordering on resignation. Perhaps, they're offering terms because they know they've won. There's nothing left for us, General. We've lost. The only option now is to retreat or face total annihilation. Karath growled, his pride unable to accept such a notion. Retreat? Never. We will fight to the end. Meanwhile, on the Nova Spirit, Mia Rook stood at the helm, her fingers lightly grazing the controls as her ship glided effortlessly through the wreckage of the Dreadreaper and the remnants of the Empire's once mighty fleet. The battle had been long, brutal, and costly, but humanity had emerged victorious. The enemy was broken, and Karath had been humbled. Her gaze was hard, unwavering. She wasn't about to let up now. She had always known that the fight against the Empire wasn't just about winning, it was about making a statement. A statement that humanity wasn't something to be ignored, that they weren't to be underestimated. And Karatha's arrogance had made that victory all the more satisfying. Admiral Reed, Mia's voice broke through the tense quiet of the bridge. Prepare a transmission. It's time to end this. Reed turned to her, a hint of a smile forming on her face. Are we going to give them a chance to surrender, Captain? Mia's lips curled upward, but there was no humor in it. No. We're going to make sure they never forget who they're dealing with. The transmission was sent, and Mia's message was clear and unyielding. General Karath, she began, her voice cutting through the comms, you've made a grave mistake. The Empire thought it could eradicate humanity, but it's clear now that we will never bend. We don't surrender. Not now, not ever. The comms officer reported, they're responding, Captain. It's Karath. Mia straightened, her eyes narrowing. The face of the man who had brought destruction to countless worlds appeared on the screen, his expression cold and defiant despite the disarray surrounding him. You, humans are nothing but pests, Karath sneered. You think you've won? You think you've broken the Empire? We are the masters of the galaxy, and you're nothing more than an insignificant speck. I will never surrender. Mia's expression remained steady. You are arrogant, General. That's your downfall. We never asked for this war, but we'll fight until the very last breath if we have to. And you're a testament to how quickly the mighty can fall. Karatha's fury boiled over. You think you've broken me? You think I'm defeated? You've won a battle, human, but the war is far from over. Mia's voice was calm, measured. The war is over, Karath. You just haven't realized it yet. The Empire may have been strong, but we've proven that humanity will always find a way to fight back. You underestimated us. And that's something you'll never recover from. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Karath staring at the blank screen, his rage unchecked. He was beaten. His pride, his empire, everything he had worked for, had been crushed by a species he deemed too weak to matter. Back on the Nova Spirit, the crew went to work, ensuring the Empire's remaining forces were disbanded. With the battle won and their enemies scattered, Mia couldn't help but feel a sense of cold satisfaction. But there was no time for rest. This was just one chapter in a much larger story. Captain, the remaining fleet is retreating, Reed reported, her voice steady. We've disabled their engines, but they're trying to get away. Mia didn't hesitate. Pursue them. We don't let them escape. No more Empire. She turned to face her crew. This is humanity's moment. Let them remember what happens when you underestimate us. The human fleet moved in, precise and methodical, closing the gap between themselves and the remaining Empire ships. No more tricks, no more hiding. Mia's resolve was unwavering. She had won this battle, but she knew this wasn't the end. The galaxy would remember today, remember the power of humanity, remember that the Empire could no longer just destroy, conquer, and leave. As the Empire's remaining warships were torn apart, one by one, Karatha's voice broke through once more, this time through a desperate plea. You'll pay for this, humans. This isn't over. You think you've beaten the Empire, but you've only started a war that you'll never win. Mia's voice was cold and unwavering. It's over for you, Karath. The Empire's reign ends today. With the last remnants of the Empire's forces destroyed, the human fleet stood victorious, the remnants of the once mighty Dread Reaper floating in space, a broken symbol of the arrogance and hubris that had led to its downfall. Humanity had done what many thought impossible, they had stood toe-to-toe with the mightiest force in the galaxy and won. Mia looked out at the stars, her face set in stone. This isn't the end, she whispered to herself. It's just the beginning. The battle was over, but the message was clear. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy. And no one, not even the Empire, could ever take that from them. Let's head home, Mia said, her voice resolute. We've won. And we'll be ready for whatever comes next. And as the human fleet sailed back into the vastness of space, one thing was certain, the galaxy had been irrevocably changed. Humanity had proven that even against overwhelming odds, it would always find a way to fight, to survive, and ultimately, to triumph.